What if Skinwalker Ranch is what they say it is? In 1996, a man named Terry Sherman bought 480 acres south of Ballard, Utah, in the Uintah Basin. The property had been in private hands since the early 20th century. By the standards of a working cattle operation in that part of Utah, it was unremarkable. The land had a main house, several outbuildings, a corral, and a pond. It sat at the foot of the Uintah Mountains with a long, flat valley to the south. Sherman was a former Las Vegas casino employee. He was not a rancher. He was a city man who wanted a quiet place in the country. He paid a fair price. He moved in. Within 6 months, Sherman was ready to leave. He was seeing things on his own land. He could not sleep. He watched his cattle die in ways that didn't match anything a veterinarian could explain. His wife started sleeping with a shotgun by the bed. She refused to let the children go outside alone after dark. She later told investigators her husband was not the same man who had bought the ranch 6 months earlier. In 2004, Sherman sold the property to a man named Robert Bigelow. Bigelow was a Las Vegas real estate billionaire. He was the founder of Bigelow Aerospace, a private space company. He told the New York Times years later that he was interested in the ranch for one specific reason. He was interested in UFOs. Here's the story that started the legend. It comes from Terry Sherman. It is the first thing that made him want to leave. In the summer of 1996, a few months after Sherman moved in, one of his cows went into labor in the south pasture. The cow was in distress. Sherman drove out to the pasture in his truck. He parked about 100 yards from the cow. He got out of the truck. The cow was not alone. A creature was standing over it. The creature was between 5 and 6 feet tall, on 2 legs, with a wolf-like head and a humanoid body. Its eyes glowed. It looked at Sherman. It did not attack. It did not run. It simply turned and walked away, slowly, into the trees. The cow died. It had been opened. It had been opened in a way no predator could have done surgically, with a precision that no animal in the area was capable of. Sherman called a local veterinarian. The vet could not explain the cuts. The cuts were clean. The cuts were uniform. The cuts suggested a tool, not a claw. Sherman called the local sheriff. The sheriff took a report. The sheriff did not investigate. The cattle deaths were filed as predator kills. Sherman knew the difference. Bigelow bought the ranch in 2004. He started a research operation on the property called the National Institute for Discovery Science NIDS. The NIDS team included physicists, biologists, former intelligence officers, and a small security detail. The team installed cameras, motion sensors, radiation detectors, and magnetometers. They ran continuous monitoring for years. They recorded things. The recorded phenomena on the NIDS reports included orbs of light, sometimes stationary, sometimes moving at speeds the cameras could barely track. A repeating geometric pattern of lights, captured on multiple cameras in the south pasture. A bright disk that descended to about 50 feet above the ranch, hovered, and then shot straight up. A wolf-like creature that walked across the same pasture on the same night, in front of the same camera, 3 times in 30 minutes. Cattle mutilations consistent with Sherman's account, surgical, bloodless, in the same area, multiple times. The NIDS team could not explain most of what they recorded. They never published a final report. The team was disbanded in 2007, when Bigelow shifted his focus to building inflatable space station modules for NASA. The ranch continued. The sightings continued. The instruments kept recording things they could not explain. In December of 2017, the New York Times reported on a program called the Advanced Aerospace Threat and Identification Program, AATIP. According to the Times reporting, AATIP had been run out of the Pentagon from 2007 to 2012. The program had a budget of $22 million a year. The program had been run by a man named Luis Elizondo, who had resigned in protest. AATIP had been investigating reports from military pilots. Navy pilots described objects that displayed no visible propulsion, that moved at hypersonic speeds, that made no sonic booms, that changed direction in ways that would crush any human pilot. The Times reporting did not name Skinwalker Ranch. It did not name Bigelow, but the AATIP story opened a door. That door had been closed for 60 years. Closed because the U.S. government had spent decades dismissing the people who saw things in the sky. The door was now open enough for people to see the hallway. What the hallway contained was the same question that has been asked at Skinwalker Ranch for a quarter century. What are these things, and where are they from? The Pentagon, in the Times reporting, had asked the same question. The Pentagon had not been able to answer it. In December of 2019, a paragraph appeared in the National Defense Authorization Act. It required the Director of National Intelligence and the Secretary of Defense to provide a report on unidentified aerial phenomena. The report came out in June of 2021. It was a controlled document. The unclassified version documented 144 incidents. The incidents had been reported by military pilots. The incidents had been captured on radar and on infrared. The incidents displayed flight characteristics that could not be explained by any known aircraft or natural phenomenon. The report said one incident could be explained a deflating balloon. The report said 143 could not. The Skinwalker Ranch connection was not made directly. The implication was clear. The instruments on the property had been recording the same kinds of things the military pilots had been seeing. The instruments on the property had been recording them for 2 decades. The Pentagon had been investigating the same kinds of things for the same length of time. The report did not use the word alien. The report did not use the word UFO. The report used the language of uncertainty, unidentified aerial phenomena. The uncertainty is the point. The people who have lived and worked at Skinwalker Ranch are ordinary people. They are pilots, biologists, physicists, security contractors, ranch hands. They are not the type to make up stories. Colm Kelleher, a biochemist who was part of the NIDS team, has spoken publicly about his time on the property. He told an interviewer he observed the ranch from a high bluff at night. He watched a bright object hover over the south pasture for several minutes. He watched the object shoot straight up and disappear. At the time, he was sitting next to a retired Army colonel. The colonel was visibly shaken. A security contractor on the property, on a public podcast in 2019, described being followed by a wolf-like creature that walked upright. The creature was at least 6 feet tall. Its eyes glowed. It made no sound. The contractor raised his rifle. He did not fire. He was being watched by something that was not afraid of him. The contractor was on the property to provide security. He did not feel secure. Here's the strangest recurring phenomenon at the ranch. It has been captured on multiple cameras by multiple operators over more than 2 decades. The phenomenon is the glowing orb. Camera footage shows a sphere of light between 2 and 10 feet in diameter. The orb can be stationary for several minutes, then move. It can drift slowly across a field. It can hover above a cow. It can be joined by a second orb. It can move in formation. It can vanish in an instant. The orb registers on the radiation detectors. It registers on the magnetometers. Witnesses can see it with the naked eye. Witnesses sometimes describe it as a physical presence. The orb is associated with a feeling of being watched. The official explanations call it a trick of light, a camera artifact, a reflection. The official explanations have been repeated for decades. The witnesses have been there for decades. The witnesses are not going away. Skinwalker Ranch is the site of more documented paranormal incidents than almost any place on Earth. The property has been the focus of a private research program run by a billionaire. Cattle have been mutilated on the property in ways no veterinarian can explain. Glowing orbs have been seen. Hovering discs have been seen. Wolf-like creatures have been seen. Cattle have died in ways that have no earthly cause. The Pentagon has been investigating the same kinds of things for the same length of time. The Pentagon has 143 cases it cannot explain. The Pentagon has admitted the cases publicly. The witnesses are not cranks. The witnesses are pilots, scientists, security contractors, ranchers. The witnesses are the people we trust to investigate the most sensitive things in the country. The question is not whether the witnesses are credible. The witnesses are credible. The question is what the witnesses saw. The witnesses saw things in the sky. The witnesses saw things on the ground. The witnesses saw things that did not obey the laws we know. The witnesses are still talking. The sky will not change. The instruments are still running. The ranch is still there. The question will sit in the space between the camera and the orb until one of them is the answer you have been waiting for.